So good afternoon, guys. So look onto these pictures. So we have first a picture of friends, and next is the group of BTS, one of the most famous Korean groups, and we have the group of Hype Beast, and this group of ducklings with another yellow duckling below, and another group of people who were from a concert. So all of the pictures convey some form of social organization and interaction. And we consider this as social group. So group is considered the heart of interaction. So due to socialization, we often create our own social groups. And this is how we socially identify ourselves. We wanted to be in part of the group and to consider ourselves to be part of the group. So we have these two types of social group. We have social categories and social aggregates. So let's begin with the narrower one. Social aggregates are a collection of individual people who are at the same place at the same time. And people in social aggregate do not necessarily share some traits or values, unlike in social categories. And here, interactions are minimal or superficial. Like for example, audiences at the movie house, they're just gathered there to just watch the movie, or fans at the game, they don't necessarily have the same race or same age, but they're just there for the game. Or maybe another example would be passengers in a jeepney. At that point, they may not have the same age or race or destination, but at that moment they are a social aggregate. Next is social category. Here, they have a deeper relationship, like social aggregate. So these are a collection of individual people who share one or more characteristics. Like for example, they have the same age, they have the same gender, race, ethnicity, or culture, same education level, social class, religion, location, or even nationality. So these are both social groups. What are social groups? Social groups are collection of individuals who have regular contact, frequent interaction, mutual influence, common feeling of belongingness, and who work together to achieve a common set of goals. So you may consider your classmates or your friends, your barkada, as social groups. We have these three types or three categories of groups. Let's discuss first the first one. So, of course, we have primary groups. Primary groups are small, characterized by a long-lasting intimate relationship which binds the members together more than the goal. So, ito yung mga mas close. So, halimbawa, family or childhood friends or barkada, those are primary groups. We also have secondary groups. Can be large or small, and common interest bind the members together more than their relationship. Halimbawa, kagroup mo sa project or kagroup sa thesis or kagroup sa paggawa ng MT or PT, or group of bikers, study buddies, that they're just gathered there for a common aim, which is a project, a completion of thesis or whatever. So their relationship are not that too personal, unlike the primary groups. But they can be considered as a primary group if the relationship will be built up. Next is we have the reference group. So reference group or individuals which we compare ourselves. It serves as a standard against which behaviors and attitudes are measured. So it's also identified as the identity association group. So these are the people na pwedeng we look up to or we compare ourselves with. So reference group are classified into based in terms of feelingness of belongingness. We have the out group and the in group. So if you say in group, Yun yung mga groups na gusto nating mapabilang. Like halimbawa, yung mga, let's say, varsity players in school that you will look up to, or idols, those are in groups. While out group, um, those things or those group that we don't want to be part with. So let's have first the characteristics of in groups. So members are often use titles, external symbols, and dress to distinguish themselves from others. Like for example, if they are already part of the in group, they want it to be different. They dress differently, they wear the uniform, and it is a group to which an individual feels he or she belongs. So also, one feels loyalty and respect for the in group. So sometimes being part of the in group is not always advantageous. So members apply positive stereotypes to their in group and negative stereotypes to the other groups. There's that sense of belongingness. So they wanted to consider themselves as part of the in group. They look down on the out groups. People who do not conform to the standards of the in group are automatically considered an out group. Like for example, part of the barkada. Tapos, a member doesn't want to do this thing. So, there is a stigma that people would place stigma, sorry, to the deviant who do not conform to the group. There's so-called in-group favoritism, which reinforces self-esteem by making members feel superior over the out-group. Now, for the out-groups, no, this is a group wherein an individual is not part of and does not identify with. Like, for example, yung mga may gusto ng etong team, tapos isa naman yung kabila. So, yung isang individual na may gusto ng kabila, that is the out-group. And one feels antagonism and contempt for these groups. Sometimes negative attitudes are often associated with these individuals. Like for example, the in-group would consider the out-group as a rebel or black sheep or anything that they don't want to be part with. So having a reference group affects an individual in two ways. First one is normative effect and comparison effect. We say normative effect since the individual is considering himself as part of the group. He would change his ways, he would follow the norms of the group. That's a normative effect, which is also a positive effect. And of course, sometimes it is disadvantageous. There's a comparison effect. Like for example, to be part of the clique, you really need to change your way of life, your behavior, your routines. Like for example, before the government requires the policeman to have this particular body size or body shape. That's the comparison effect. So basically, socialization depends on the size of the group that they belong in. So a large group tends to promote detachment through indirect interaction. Like if the group has more members, most likely these members will create small groups to foster direct interaction. Like for example, a class of 38 or a class of 40, they will be considered. I mean, they consider themselves as social group, but these members of a class, they will create small groups. In some, primary relationships are created in small groups, while secondary relationships are experienced in large groups. We have this so-called groupthink. So groupthink is a process by which the members of a group ignore ways of thinking and plans of action that go against the group consensus. Like for example, if they are already they felt that they need to be part of the group, they will reject all the things that do not really go for the belief of the group. So in that case, that groups may influence their members in a variety of ways. It goes to extent where members reject ways of thinking that are against the group consensus. So for example, let's say yung mga members ng ISIS. So although some of them do not really believe in the idea or the ways to have their government, since it is already a belief or it is a norm in the group, they will reject or they will ignore the ways that are against the belief of the members or the belief of the others that are not part of ISIS. Again, it's a phenomenon where people tend to conform with group decisions to avoid feeling outcast. Sometimes they just conform because they don't want to be considered outcast. So that is our lecture for social groups.